almost no time to catch your breath. Couple of high-profile, as I say, as I describe them, potential returnees today. Shane Gostisbehere looks like he will be back in the lineup. Nothing officially official, but based on some of the roster moves they made and some of the way that he's been talked about this week, I'd be surprised if Shane Gostisbehere isn't back in the lineup today. Also, Pyotr Kochetkov, whether he is in net today or not, it appears as if he is on the 5-yard line going in as far as returning from an injury that's kept him out for the entirety of the season, which could spark some things. Hear me out, Dennis. I'm going to choose to be optimistic here. Okay?
Alrighty.
One of the things that we've been most kind of antsy about as a fan base, paying attention to the Carolina Hurricanes, has been the power play. Maybe Gostisbehere coming back, the quarterback of your power play one, could spark it. Maybe he was sitting back while injured. It's a different perspective when you're watching, right? Especially when you're not watching like from the bench or from a booth. Like he was at home watching. Maybe he saw some things or recognized, like so many of us do, like, all right, we just got to shoot the puck more. And he can go in there and be the straw that stirs that drink. Pyotr Kochetkov returning. What's another thing that maybe we've been antsy about to start the season for the Carolina Hurricanes? Andrei Svechnikov. We know that Pyotr and Andrei are buddies, right? Maybe he'll be the one once he's on the bench or in goal that can say whatever needs to be said, potentially in their home language, that can get Andrei Svechnikov back on track because obviously he's not only off track, like he's a couple miles into the woods off the tracks right now. He needs to be called back to the tracks. Maybe that's Pyotr Kochetkov.
Maybe.
My point is, as the season goes along, you never really know what are the things that are going to, snap guys back into where they need to be. And with so many players in and out of the lineup over the last 4 or 5 games, it's sometimes hard to even focus on what you need to focus on, right? Like if you're on the power play unit and you understand, like, all right, power play's not performing up to where it needs to be, right? Because they can look at stats just like the rest of us and say, we're 2 for whatever. The percentage is whatever, and it's not good enough. But, right, you throw in, but Robinson's out, Carrier's out, Miller's out, Slavin's out, Gostisbehere's out. It's like, you know what? I'll figure out the power play another time. I've got to go, make sure I have these boatload of blue liners that are making their essential NHL debuts behind me. I got to go make sure they're covered, and I'm playing two-way hockey. The power play, we'll figure that out. So, right, you bring somebody like Ghost back, maybe that's the thing that unlocks some of it, right? Because even though Riley, at the beginning of the year wasn't expected to be an every down blue liner, he's trustworthy. Walker, trustworthy. You're now looking at that obviously you have Chatfield making whatever line he's on pretty trustworthy. And then Nikishin and Nystrom there likely on the backside. Pretty good, right? Maybe not as dead set sturdy as you'd like just because they're young, but they're better now than they were a week ago. Maybe the power play can take on a little bit more attention now.
The biggest thing they need is continuity. Because like you said, Shane Gostisbehere went out early. I know Rod early in the season made a switch where he put Jackson Blake with that quote-unquote first unit and put Svechnikov with that second unit. So that was a change that took place early. But Gostisbehere left that road trip, 2 games into it? Mm-hmm. So you didn't really have a chance to get going. Because I know they scored if I remember correctly, They scored twice actually in the first game because Keandre Miller scored one. So you had, all right, now Keandre Miller moves up, and then he goes out. It's like, okay, then you're even mid-game you're making adjustments and moves as well. And they even tried 5 forwards on Saturday. Yeah. It's just there hasn't been any continuity with that unit either.
Actually, now that you mention it, because I was going to say I don't know if you can expect continuity at any point in time because guys are going to be coming back and leaving and called up. But actually, the power play 1 unit now has most of the guys ready to roll, right? So that might be the one thing that can hopefully, barring more injury, settle in a little bit there, which would be great, right? Because the crazy part, and I'm not going to beat a dead horse, be a broken record, whatever your metaphor, but there's 2 things that frustrate the heck out of me about the power play. One, they're drawing a good amount of penalties.
Yeah.
So it's like we have a lot of opportunities to be disappointed. It's if they got like 2 penalties a game and they weren't scoring a power play goal, it'd be all right, they had 2 rough ones. But when they get 5 and they don't score a power, or they get 3 shots on goal across 4 power play opportunities, that's when it gets really frustrating. But the second part is, and I know we've said this a bunch on the air, we said it yesterday. So much of what they do 5-on-5, I think, would work as a power play, but for whatever reason, when they get the advantage, they stop doing a lot of the things that I just want them to keep going. I want them to almost hypnotize themselves into thinking they're 5-on-5 or thinking they're shorthanded when they're playing with the advantage, which is a different beast. A couple other kind of questions that are going to be brought up here. If Pyotr Kochetkov is back and healthy, what do you do with Brandon Bussi? Because he's been good. He's been very good.
He's been great.
Yeah, he's been well above what you hope for when you claim a guy and have him starting NHL games like 2 weeks later. And because of that, you can't make him any kind of vulnerable to other teams claiming him, because I think he would be claimed very quickly by a bunch of teams out there. So even if it's not a bunch of teams, if it's a couple teams, it only takes one. Which makes just the way they handle goalie from this point forward a little bit more intriguing. I think you'll need 3. You might need 4 by the time the season. Yeah, I mean, if you're a Canes fan, you're like, yeah, you might need 8, which might be a little overkill, but maybe not. Brandon Bussi is earned his way into some role on the team, and I think now if you have to play a little roster gymnastics to make it so you can protect those guys, I think you do it. And then another question, and this one is more more theoretical. How do you continue to take advantage of and develop the offensive skill set, which is obviously a bit significant for Alexander Nikishin? Because there are 2 things that are interesting to me in this discussion. One, it took 3 injuries, and suddenly Alexander Nikishin was being treated like the old veteran, right? He had like 7 NHL regular season starts, and he was playing with a guy that had 1 and a guy that had none. And you're looking towards Alexander Nikishin going like, I need you to make sure everybody's in the right position. I need like the system, which in last year's postseason during the couple of starts he had was like, I don't know, he's out there playing in a foreign system. He doesn't know. It's all unusual to him. Fast forward to the beginning of this year. It's like, can you teach these guys the system? Which inherently adds too much to his plate. So then you probably are asking him to do a little bit less of maybe the stuff that makes him special. Then you add in some of this power play stuff where they've had a bunch of injuries, and you're seeing even guys like Nystrom get like legit opportunities to quarterback a power play, and we haven't really seen that much for Alexander Nikishin, which I think is part of bringing him along slowly and part of making sure that he can digest everything that he is being fed as far as what the Canes are asking of him. But maybe I'm just being greedy. Maybe I'm just being like, a ultimate fan here and want to be entertained. I still want to see the special offensive ability from Alexander Nikishin at least a couple times a game, flashing or like, oh, there it is, or the hammers from the blue line. Like I want to see Alexander Nikishin, and I want to make sure that in the interest of turning him into a quote-unquote Canes defenseman, you don't ignore what made him quote-unquote the best defenseman not in the NHL for 2 years prior to coming on over here. So I wouldn't hate if he gets a shift or 2 on the power play. I wouldn't hate if we see him be a bit more aggressive when the puck is in the offensive zone rather than just worrying about everything and everywhere he needs to be defensively.
I think a lot of that ties in what we talked about with the power play, that continuity. Mm-hmm. Because him and Shane Gostisbehere at the beginning of the year were great.
Yep.
They absolutely were, and you can tell there's a level of comfort there. And then now, like you said, he's having to skate with different guys. Like he just simply doesn't know. He didn't skate with these guys in the preseason. They were in different different groups. Yeah, like maybe in one of the preseason games, but there's not enough to actually build any sort of chemistry there. So, like you said, he's still figuring it out at the NHL level, the Kane system, and also trying to figure out who's beside him. It's not an easy thing to do.
I had, and yesterday on the call line, we had a couple callers give like ridiculous analogies, and I was like, I appreciate that very much.
That's fair.
So correct me if I'm wrong on this potential analogy.
Okay.
Alexander Nikishin, when he is with really any of the other 5 of the kind of 6 ideal blue liners for the Canes, like their opening day blue liners, if dancing, like straight, so you think you can dance, or Dancing with the Stars dancing, he's not the leader of that pair, right? He's not leading. He's the follower, I guess. I don't know what it's called in dance. When you put him with like a Nystrom, he's kind of the guy. He has to lead the dance, right? He's the one, step 1, 2, step 1, which is completely different than what he's probably been trained to do, right? All offseason, it's probably, hey, we're going to have you with Chatfield, or maybe we'll have you with Slavin, or maybe we'll have you with Gostisbehere, or maybe we'll have you with, like, and all of those are even Miller, like, there's so much more experience, even Walker. So it's like you're going to be the guy following. Now he's being put into a leading situation that is a completely other part of the execution, and thus maybe they're taking other things off his plate, which I get and I understand, but I just, again, maybe I'm being greedy. I want to see him score goals. I want to see him put up points because he's Alexander Nikishin, and it's what's been promised. The Drive with Tim Donnelly, 99.9 The Fan. Before we move